He was the star of the college basketball team. She was the girl in the oversized sweater no one really noticed. One lab assignment brought them together. She helped him study. He brought her cinnamon coffee. Just friendship, no romance, no expectations. Then life pulled them apart. 5 years later, at the reunion, he notices a beautiful stranger, and doesn't realize she's the girl he once knew. That night, one slow dance changes everything, and maybe gives a second chance to feelings that were simply waiting for the right time. Sometimes true love doesn't disappear, it just waits.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
He fell for a stranger, and it was her. At a large city college, where the air always smelled like vending machine coffee, new textbooks, and a quiet kind of nervousness before exams, their worlds barely crossed. Dylan was the kind of guy people noticed right away. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with an easy confidence. He played for the college basketball team, and when he stepped onto the court, the stands came alive. Coaches knew him, students knew him, even some professors showed up to watch him play. And Harper, almost no one noticed her. She always sat in the second or third row, never the first, not to draw attention, but not too far back either, so she could hear clearly. Her old gray sweater was a little too big, her hair often pulled into a loose ponytail, and her backpack always held more notebooks than necessary. She wasn't unattractive, she was just invisible. They were brought together by chance. One day in biochemistry class, the professor divided the students into pairs for a major lab project. Dylan had come in late after morning practice, ran a hand through his still damp hair, and took the only empty seat, next to Harper. "Looks like we're partners," he said with a smile. Harper nodded, trying not to show that she was a little nervous. For the first 15 minutes, he barely did anything. He stared at the instructions as if they were written in another language. Then Harper quietly said, "If you mix these reagents in a different order, the reaction will go faster. We won't have to wait 20 minutes. He looked at her, surprised. "You sure?" She was already doing it. A few minutes later, they were the first pair with the correct result. That was the moment she impressed him. Not with her appearance, not with her personality, with her mind, her calm, her quiet confidence that didn't need to be shown off. From that day on, they started working together. Then sometimes grabbing coffee after class. Then studying in the library before exams. Dylan would bring her a snack or coffee with cinnamon. He'd overheard once that she liked it. Harper would explain the hard topics, draw diagrams, come up with simple ways to remember things. "You're saving my scholarship," he'd joke. "And you're saving my social life," she'd laugh softly. Their friendship was easy. No pressure, no flirting, none of that awkward tension that sometimes appears between a guy and a girl. She never came to his games. He never asked if she was seeing anyone. And somehow, it felt natural. After graduation, life pulled them in different directions. New cities, jobs, deadlines, rent, adult problems. At first, they exchanged a few messages. Then less often. Then silence. 5 years passed. Dylan wasn't particularly excited on his way to the reunion. He worked as a manager at a sports company, lived in a nice apartment, worked out after work. But lately, he'd been feeling a strange kind of exhaustion from the routine. The music at the venue was loud. People were laughing, hugging, sharing old stories. And that was when he saw her. She was standing near the drinks table. A black, elegant dress highlighted her figure. Her hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. A subtle, expensive perfume lingered in the air even from a distance. She looked confident, calm, beautiful in that quiet, grown-up way you don't notice instantly. But once you do, you can't look away. Dylan walked past her a few times, trying to figure out who she was. Finally, He approached. "Hi, I feel like we went to school together?" She turned to him. There was a small spark in her eyes. "Maybe," she said. "Do you remember people well?" "I think so." She took a sip of water. "Then remember." And she smiled. All evening, he caught himself watching her. They talked, laughed, remembered professors, but she still didn't tell him her name. When the slow music started, he held out his hand. "Dance?" She agreed. The lights dimmed. Her hand rested in his. The other settled lightly on his shoulder. As they began to move with the music, she said quietly, "You still haven't figured it out? I've been trying all night." Pause. Biochemistry. Mixing the reactions in the wrong order. He froze. "Harper?" She nodded. His eyes widened. "That's impossible." "Possible," she said softly. The sweater was different. He laughed, but there was something more than surprise in his eyes. He was looking at her as if he were seeing her for the first time. And this time, truly seeing her. They spent the whole evening together, talking about work, about how hard the first years had been, about failed relationships, about the fears that come with growing up. And between them, that same feeling returned. Ease, comfort, like being next to someone you don't have to pretend with. When the reunion ended, he said, "Let me walk you home." She looked at him, a little surprised. "Are you sure? I'm not the library nerd anymore." "Exactly." The night air was cool. The city glowed with evening lights. They walked slowly, talking, sometimes falling quiet, but the silence felt warm. Near her building, he stopped. "Harper?" She looked up at him. "I think we missed something back then." She smiled. "Maybe, but you know, we were different people." Pause. "And now?" He stepped a little closer. "Now I don't want to lose you again." She looked at him for a few seconds. Then she said, "Okay, but this time, no 5-year breaks." He laughed, and in that moment, standing under the warm light of a street lamp, they both felt it. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a beginning. Quiet, unhurried, grown, and maybe the kind that comes exactly when the time is right. A week had passed since the reunion. They texted each other every day. At first, short messages. "How was your day? Did you eat? Don't forget to rest." Then long evening conversations. About work, about dreams they had postponed, about fears they had never told anyone else. A few days later, they started meeting after work. One warm evening, Dylan invited Harper to walk along the river. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold, and the water reflected the light like a quiet glow. They walked side by side, slowly. Sometimes their hands brushed by accident. Sometimes they laughed at small things. Sometimes they simply walked in silence. And once again, the silence felt warm. Near the water, they stopped. "Do you remember?" Dylan said quietly. "In college I never really saw who you were." Harper smiled. "And I remember you always bringing me cinnamon coffee." He looked at her carefully. Gently. "I think I was already falling for you back then. I just didn't understand it." The breeze lifted a strand of her hair. She stepped a little closer. Their hands finally intertwined. For a few seconds, they just looked at each other. Then Dylan leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was soft and slow. Not rushed, not overwhelming, like they were both careful not to scare this new, fragile happiness away. When they pulled back, Harper whispered, "I think we're 5 years late." Dylan smiled. "No, we're right on time." 2 months passed. They could no longer imagine their days without each other. Cooking dinners together, grocery shopping, falling asleep on the couch during movies. One evening, as Harper was getting ready to leave, Dylan said, "So, I was thinking, you're still paying rent for your apartment." "Yes," she said carefully. "Maybe you should move in with me. It would help you save money." Harper crossed her arms and looked at him with a small smile. "Really? This is about money?" Dylan hesitated. "Well, it makes sense." She stepped closer. "Dylan, you're a terrible liar." He exhaled. "Okay, I just don't want to wake up without you. And I don't want you leaving every night." There was a quiet pause. Harper wrapped her arms around him. "I knew it wasn't about the rent." She moved in a week later. Soon his apartment filled not just with her things, but with her warmth. The scent of vanilla in the kitchen, books on the nightstand, her sweater draped over a chair. And for the first time in a long time, Dylan felt it. This was home. He was completely, hopelessly in love with her. And he didn't hide it anymore. 6 months later, they were getting married. The wedding was small, only close friends and family. They chose a quiet garden outside the city, where white roses grew and old trees created soft shade. Harper wore a light dress that moved gently with the wind. Her hair was styled simply, without anything extravagant, and she looked exactly the way Dylan had once first seen her, real. When she walked toward him, he could barely hold back his emotions. "Are you crying?" she whispered as she reached him. "I'm just thinking how lucky I am." Their vows were simple. "I promise to always bring you cinnamon coffee," he said. Harper smiled through her tears. "And I promise to always remind you in which order to mix the reactions." The guests laughed, but in those words lived their whole story. When they kissed under the applause, Dylan whispered, "I found you twice, and I'm never letting you go again." And Harper knew, this time, it was forever. The evening ended with a slow dance under strings of warm lights. She rested her head on his shoulder, and he held her like he was protecting her from the whole world. And in that moment, they both understood. Sometimes the most important love doesn't begin right away. It simply waits for its time. And when it comes, it stays forever. 2 years have passed. Sometimes I think the happiest moments in life don't arrive loudly. They don't demand attention. They simply settle quietly beside you. In the morning light, in the smell of coffee, in the warm hand that always finds yours. Our home sounds different now. It's filled with the soft rhythm of a baby's breathing, the gentle rustle of blankets, the tiny sounds I never knew I would love so much. And every time I look at our son, it feels like my heart has grown bigger. We named him Noah. He has Dylan's dark hair and my eyes. And his calm. The same calm I once felt sitting next to Dylan in the library years ago. I will never forget the day he was born. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, a little scared. But when the nurse placed him in my arms, and Dylan stood beside me holding my hand with both of his, I saw tears in his eyes. He whispered, "Thank you for our family." Since that day, I've seen a different side of Dylan. He's the one who wakes up first at night, even when he has work in the morning. He walks quietly around the room, rocking Noah in his arms. He always brings me water when I forget to take care of myself. And every morning, just like before, he places my cinnamon coffee on the table. Only now, there's often a tiny bottle next to it. Our days aren't perfect. Sometimes we're tired. Sometimes we barely sleep. Sometimes dinner is just something quick between crying and laughter. But our home holds more love now. More honesty. More us. My favorite time is the evening. Noah falls asleep in his little room, and Dylan and I sit together on the couch. Sometimes we talk. Sometimes we just hold hands. Just like we did by the river. Not long ago, I asked him, "Did you ever imagine this life?" He smiled and said, "No, but now I can't imagine life without it." And here's what I've learned over these years. Love isn't loud words. It isn't grand gestures. It isn't perfect moments. Love is someone getting up at night instead of you. It's coffee made for you, even years later. It's the way someone looks at you like you're still their best decision. Once, I was a girl in an old sweater that no one really noticed. Today, I'm the wife of a man who looks at me like I'm his whole world. And the mother of a little boy who taught me that your heart can love more than you ever thought possible. Sometimes life doesn't give you love right away. Sometimes it teaches you to wait, to grow, to change, to become yourself, and only then does it bring you someone who truly sees you. And when that happens, hold on to it. Because the best love is quiet, real, and forever. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new stories. And also write in the comments how you liked this story on a scale of 1 to 5. Watch the following video and enjoy watching.